everyone, and welcome to another episode of Radiant Central, and I'm your host, Natasha St. Michael, and thank you so much for joining me. So today I'm going to answer a question about what am I eating, what am I following a diet, what am I doing? So pretty much I just want to give a little bit of a background as to where I was at a year ago, because for some of you might not know, but I was a strict vegetarian for 23 years. I'm 36, so that's 2/3 of my life, and I was a raw vegan for 4 years. And over a year ago, I found out I had a severe vitamin B12 deficiency, and I had the option between taking injections of vitamin B12 every month for the rest of my life, or adding in animal foods into my diet. I was taking supplements, but my body wasn't absorbing it. And so I chose to add in animal foods. And for me, that was a huge transition. Most of my life, I was vegetarian. Last time I had meat was when I was a young child. So I have to say that it was a difficult transition as well, and not so much physically, but emotionally. And I think mostly because I've been just so used to so many years, most of my life, following strict dietary rules, and suddenly those rules were broken or changed, and I was adding in whole foods into my diet, animal foods, things like that, and it caused a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress because I was used to eating a raw vegan diet, and suddenly I was adding in foods that I hadn't eaten. I didn't know how to prepare them, all of it. And I would say for about 6 months I found myself yo-yoing back and forth between eating a whole food diet with animal foods to going to a raw vegan diet. And I went back and forth, and that just caused more and more stress, anxiety, and I just found myself consumed with thoughts about food and diet and what's healthy and what should I do and what should I follow. And it was just driving me a little bit crazy and creating so much anxiety that I'd say after about 6 months of going back and forth, I just stopped and I just declared to myself, no diet. I follow whole foods, eat whole fresh foods that are locally grown, that as much organic food as possible and as much variety as possible. From my experience of having B12 deficiency, I don't want to ever have a deficiency again in my life, and also just from dealing with just the emotional impact of restricting food and cutting up food groups, I just felt I needed to step away from that, and just as long as I'm eating whole foods and staying completely away from any junk food, any processed food, I do great. And it allows me to move away from thinking about food and just naturally able to live my life without having anxiety about every meal and trying to figure things out and all that. So I'd say for, I guess, over 6 months now, I just eat a whole food diet. I eat fresh foods. I would say my diet, volume-wise, is mostly vegetables. I love vegetables. I eat about 2 to 3 salads a day, sometimes even for breakfast. That works for me. And I also have cooked vegetables. It's not only raw, but also some cooked vegetables. My favorite food in the entire world is cauliflower, so eat raw cauliflower about, I'd say, a head of it almost every single day with either guacamole or homemade hummus, things like that. And that kind of works for me. It's just to have as much variety as possible, and I do well with vegetables. And I'd say another food that I do really well with is having eggs every single day. So I have about 2 to 4 eggs every single day. And one thing that I did was kind of just step back and observe myself. Observe, okay, well, what is it that gives me energy? What is it that supports my health? What is it that balances my mood? What is it that just satiates me, that fills me up, that I don't have to eat every 2 hours, that I can go 4 to 6 hours without being hungry and able just to live my life. And so I found having as much vegetables in my diets as possible, which includes having like green juices every day, having salads every day, having raw vegetables, steamed vegetables, whatever it is, that works for me. And then the eggs as well, having 2 to 4 eggs a day. And on top of that, I eat some fruit, I eat also some dairy products, I eat meat, I eat seafood, fish, anything that's natural, nothing processed, no weird food, and as much variety as possible. And so the one thing that I don't eat is I don't eat wheat. I have a wheat allergy. I've had it for over 10 years, so I don't eat any bread or wheat or pasta or anything even that includes any small bit of wheat in it. So I have to be careful with that because my allergy is quite severe. But when it comes down to grains, I do eat whole grains. Not so much, but I do once in a while have some quinoa, or I live in Indonesia, so I do eat Indonesian food. I do have rice, things like that. So yeah, so I do eat grains, not so much, but here and there. And I also once in a while will eat beans and legumes as well. I like to make my own hummus, things like that. And I like variety. I want to cover all my bases. I don't want to have an issue with food, and I don't want to restrict myself. I find just by eating a whole food diet and allowing myself to enjoy my food and eat food that fills me up and feels good, I feel great. And pretty much too, I like to eat locally grown and raised food. And I like to eat with the seasons as well. So when I was in Canada over the summer visiting, I found that there I was eating a lot more red meat because I can get it from a small farm, organic, and so I was eating a lot of red meat and a lot of vegetables, berries, things that are grown locally, and that worked for me. But then when I come back to Indonesia, then I find myself eating more vegetables, more eggs, seafood, fish, poultry, anything I can get that's organic and locally raised and grown. So it just differs from place to place. In Canada, I was eating more even like raw cheeses, things like that, whereas here, cheeses, dairy products are not really available. So it's a matter of just, for me, working with my environment and what is available to me and what is fresh as possible and what I can get organic. And I've just found that from stepping away from any rules and regulations, just able to live and to enjoy my food and to feel good. So that's what's been working with me. And the main thing too is that most people that work with me, my coaching clients or people that have joined my programs, all know is that I'm about consistency and I'm about doing things that you can sustain over the long term. Most important. And so I found for myself that by sort of observing what are the foods that make me feel good, then I want to eat plenty of them, and I want to continue doing that, and so that I have a rhythm down with my food that, like, I don't have to think about it now. I'm not stressing out about the next meal and am I eating this, am I eating that? No, I just eat what makes me feel good, and then I move on and I live my life, and it feels great, and I feel good. My health is great, my energy is great, and yeah, it's working. So that's pretty much what I do. And someone asked me as well if I eat any raw animal foods, like do I eat raw eggs, do I eat raw fish, raw meat, things like that. And in Canada I was eating raw cheeses, but here in Indonesia I don't eat any raw animal food. It's due to sort of the hygiene levels with food prep. It's not very wise to be eating any kind of raw fish or anything like that. So so no, I do eat raw eggs though once in a while. I make a really good raw egg yolk and jackfruit smoothie, which is super yum. But other than that, I don't eat raw meats or anything like that. I cook things, and also too here right now, rainy season, so it's very damp. Rains here every single day. There's mold that grows on everything from the walls to my clothing, so I tend to counter that with my food by eating more drier foods, soups, things like that. And yeah, so I also believe in eating with the seasons, because what we need in the summer or in dry weather is very different than what we need in the winter or in damp weather. So it's working with that as well. And I just find having as much variety and adjusting things and listening to your body as to, like, what is it that it needs, and just getting in as much whole food as possible. Super, super important. Just eat natural, healthy food. Stay away from the junk. So that's pretty much it, and I'm wishing you guys a fabulous day, and I will see you soon. Bye.